Have you taken this welding test before? It consists of a downhill rod and an uphill rod. If you haven't done it before, eventually if you're a welder, you're gonna run into it. Now, the thing with this is they're gonna allow you to put your bead downhill on a 2-inch, 6-inch or whatever. The majority of the time is a 2-inch 6G schedule 80, and you're gonna go straight into it with 70-18. There's not going to be a hot pass. The problem with this is that if you grind too much, 70-18 will cause you to burn through that bead and then they'll bust you. And if you don't grind enough, you might trap some slag. So the key to this is to kind of even it out. We're gonna start into it, we're gonna prep the coupons and we'll go from there. All right, so here are the coupons right here. How should you clean them? This is not a TIG welding test. You don't have to get crazy with removing all the mill scale because 60-10, 70-18, you can actually weld on here and you shouldn't have any problems. But because it's a test, and if you're a beginner, the less rust you have, the less problems you're gonna have. So you do wanna stick some type of pencil grinder and clean the inside and the outside with a wire wheel or whatever. You don't have to get crazy with it. Now you can polish it off if you want to. I usually don't. I just get the rust off and I go straight into it. Let me show you. All right, so as you can see, the inside is pretty clean. What you want to look for is also if you have small slag that's still in there, you want to get that off. But for the most part, everything here looks pretty solid. I'm just going to go over it right here. It's got a little bit of slag, and we're going to go ahead and put the landing. One of the things that you don't want to do whenever you're putting your landing is you don't want to bounce, right? If you have your grinder, try not to bounce because bouncing will cause you to have, uneven bevels. So your gap's going to be, all over the place. The larger you get, the more waves you're going to have, and you don't want that. You want to stay consistent. So what you want to do is you want to get your grinder, pretend this is a grinding disc, and you want to go flat, right? Flat, and then do one side, go to the other one, and do the other one until you reach the level that you want. Usually I go about a dime. If you can picture a nickel, I'm sorry, you can go that thickness on your bevel. So after you're done putting your landing, as you can see right here, what you want to do is you want to get your file because some of the shavings will go inside. It's not a real big deal. A lot of guys, I think, go overboard with the file. But what you want to do is you want to get it right here and just, slightly get it out. One of my pet peeves with my helpers is they start doing this. You don't need to do any of that. Just get the little shavings off. If they're very small, remember 60-10, it's hot enough and it burns it off. So, as you can see, this right here will be my landing and we're ready to start tacking it. To tack it, what you want to do is, it always helps to have an angle, right? If you have an angle, usually the tables, when you're testing, will have an angle and you can just rest it in there and get your gap. Now, with the gap, I use about a 16th, maybe a little under. I have this spacing that I use. Honestly, I got it from somebody years back and it's been breaking off or it arcs out or whatnot, and I just kept it. Usually it's longer, it's a saw blade, but it's perfect for downhill spacing. And what you want to do is you want to just put it in there and then you can go ahead and put your tack on it. Now, whenever you put your tack in, you have to think strategically how you weld. If you're right-handed, if you're left-handed, it helps you. Now, do you have to do this? You don't. Remember, so if I'm right-handed, right? If I'm right-handed, this side right here, it's gonna be easier than this side, right? Because I'm right-handed, it's a little bit more difficult for me to see here. So you wanna keep the easier side or whatever's easier for you on the harder side. In my experience, what I do is whenever you stop putting your tack, it leaves a keyhole, right? So it's easier for you to penetrate and have a smoother transition whenever you're downhill welding, whenever you have that keyhole. You don't have to grind. On the opposite side, right, on my right side, you can go ahead and grind it and then, punch into it, pierce through that grind, and then push your rod in. But it's a lot easier because, you're more comfortable on this side than having it on this side. Same thing on the bottom, right? On the bottom, what you want to do is I start on the easy side this way, right? Obviously I'm piercing through, and then I go down to my bottom side. Now on your bottom side, when you get to the bottom, do you want to stop in the middle? I mean, you should, right? But you can also go just a little bit over, get away with as much as you can, right? So maybe about right here. And then when you're tying in this way, it's got the keyhole, and the keyhole helps you tie in a little bit better. So you push through that keyhole and you can tie in a lot easier. Let me show you. You want to make sure that you look inside to ensure that your high-low is right. So look inside, get your high-low straight, then look at your gap. Again, if you don't have a angle on the edge of the table, you can just put your hand on it and tack it right there. I just put a little tack because my machine was kind of hot, but that's enough for me to tack it, and then I'll go ahead and adjust my heat, and I can do the other side. Now remember, you can leave a small tack, and on 2-inch you can grind it and you can burn through it. So you know, if you mess up on the tack a little bit, it's okay because you can correct it as you're going. Okay, so I got one tack right here, as you can see. Now if you look at it all around, it's kind of pushed in your gap right there. So it's always good to have a spacing wedge. You know, you can put it in there and then tack the other side. We'll do that right now. You can see right here, I got my keyhole right here on the top. So this is gonna be on my difficult side, so I can just go straight into that keyhole and go down, and the same thing on the bottom, right? On the bottom itself, I'm gonna have that keyhole. So both on my easy side, which is my right side, I'm gonna grind the starts, and then I'm gonna start there, and you know, that'll be a lot easier for you. The thing you wanna do is you wanna grind your starts right here. So I set up my coupon right here, and as you can see right here, I have my grind start right there. So I can go ahead and get as comfortable as I can and just go into it easy. And on the other side, that is a little bit more difficult for me. It's not more difficult like you can't do it. It's just gonna be, you know, if you're right-handed, obviously you have a dominant side. So, you know, after I do some beat on this side, I can just go straight into the keyhole, easily transition, you know, and my connection will be, you know, a lot nicer. That's something that I've done that helps me. And if you want to try it out, or if you don't, it's just advice. So we'll go ahead and start on this side right here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and go up to the halfway point, and then I'll do the other side. That way it doesn't draw as much. And look at my body positioning, look at how I'm leaning. Always lean on something. You know, you don't want to start your beat like this and, you know, be wobbling all over the place. Always use what's surround you. In this case, I'm gonna be on this side. I'm always gonna lean right here. I'm gonna put my elbow and be as steady as possible so I can dig into it and go, right? A lot of problems, a lot of kids that I see practicing want to weld like this or like this. You're gonna be shaking. The steadier you are, the better you're gonna weld. As you can see right here, that's my keyhole. This is the side I'm gonna start. We're gonna go ahead and put the welding lens on so that you could see how to pierce through that first tack. It's always good to get a brand new rod, especially when you're starting out, because sometimes the flux or whatnot, it'll cause you to stick, so always try to get a new rod. It's always good to ensure that you put the right landing. In this case, I should have put a thicker landing because as you can see right there, the welding rod is actually melting the metal on the sides. You can see it right there. And that's the reason why I'm going back and forth. In this case, if you have a helper, tell them to turn it down. In this case, I just decided to go through it and weave it back and forth. But it's always best to put a thicker landing and to turn down your machine. Okay, so I went about 3/4 of the way down right here and I stopped. And now I'm gonna start on this side right here. But I want you to look at my body positioning. Usually, you know, whenever you're gonna be on the other side, it's a little bit more uncomfortable. Like I said, you wanna be leaning, right? So some of the ways, some of the things you could do to kind of steady you out a little bit more is you can put something inside, like your file. Just be very careful where you put this file, because when I was a beginner, once I did this and I actually welded the file onto the bead. That's a true story. So always make sure that, you know, it's not touching the side that you're welding. So that way you can lean on it like this, right? Other people, what they do is they put some vice grips too. They put it on here, and then they can lean on it, and they can, you know, it'll be steadier. You could throw a better bead. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put it right on top, make sure that I'm not on the bead. I'm gonna grind just a little bit, get some of that, you know, metal that's on top of that keyhole, and then I'm gonna go ahead and start. Okay, one thing that you wanna do before you start welding is to look at your bead, right? Especially on that start on top, because if there's anything that you messed up, this will be the time where you could fix it. You could grind back a little bit further back, pierce in through it, and you know, you can throw a whole new bead on whatever spot you messed up. So it's always good to go ahead and look in there and make sure that everything is looking fine. And from what I see, everything's looking okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start on this side. Remember, always be comfortable. And what you want to do is you want to look inside of that bottom tack. If there's something that you don't like, you're unsure about, you know, grind a little bit more and then burn through it, and it'll throw, you know, it'll overlay a new bead over whatever spot you don't like. Just be very careful. You know, don't get nervous, just do it. So that way, because sometimes you'll mess up, right? And then you try to fix it and you mess up more. If that happens, step back, take a water break, you know, chill out, make a phone call, and then come back to it. You know, it's always good to have a clear mind on a weld test. And if you're struggling with something, you know, the more you get frustrated, the more things go wrong. So step back and then try again. Look at my body positioning. Look how I'm always gonna find somewhere to lean. If there's not something, you could always tack something there. You know, there's plenty of scrap yard, scrap pipe or whatnot, angle that you could use toward your advantage whenever you're taking a weld test. This is the finished product right here. I put the bead all the way around. We'll look at the bead inside. It looks good. Now remember, on the bead itself, you're gonna have time to look at it. If you don't like something, go ahead, and if you have to grind it again, grind it again. Never stay with doubt. Let me see if you could see it. That's our bead. Our bead is looking good. It's looking okay, it's looking decent. Again, this video is not about what I can do, because I know there's a lot of people, a lot of quality, TikTok quality control, they're gonna tell me of what I'm doing wrong. But this is not the object here. The whole purpose of this video, again, is not so I can show you that I'm some big bad welder, because I'm not about that. I'm here to try to give you some pointers in case you ever have to take this welding test or whatever. We're done with the bead. Now on this test, you go straight into 70-18 uphill. You can't use a hot pass. Now, can you cheat and sneak it in there? I'll leave it up to you, because I've seen it out in the field. A lot of guys will tell you that they don't, but a lot of guys have a lot riding on this test, and they have to do what they have to do. I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong. It's for you to determine. Now, if you want to do it the correct way, because the QC is sitting down right next to you, then I could give you some tips that are going to help you. We're going to go ahead and grind it and go straight into it with 70-18 on the next video.